Salam alaikum, kif halik, kaifakum shlonek, merhaba, konnichiwa, ni hao, namaste, privyet, bonjour, buongiorno, saludos, oladag hajbarev, yak shimash, je suis Ali, Anna Alex, Anna Moreda, Anna Moshaba, je suis malade, aka I am sick, rendering me not taking my ADHD medication. So prepare to bounce around with my brain as you would chasing a grasshopper. Let's go. The Cedar Project, or Project Cedar, central bank digital currency from the New York Fed. I'm a bit confused. However, as someone who is enamored with tech and loves tech so much, especially in to finance and blockchain tech, I have questions. The Cedar Project, Project Cedar, spoke about blockchain implementation. Now, a central bank digital currency means it's centralized. So I'm confused. However, I commend the New York Fed for the 12-week pilot testing with banks in the United States. I do find it unfortunate we're about 8 years late compared to the digital yuan. The digital yuan is going to be the central bank digital currency standard. I believe about 100 countries now are in development, from France, Luxembourg, the Ukraine, Japan, pilot testing launching 2 weeks ago, and everything I have explained to you all in videos prior. However, China is very much set themselves and modern day Mao a wonderful position to possibly in the next 5 to 10, maybe sooner, maybe later, years of capitulating the United States and catapulting. What do I mean by that? Sure, let's talk. Aside from the de-dollarization project of 2014, in conjunction with Russia, 38 amendments, etc., I encourage you all to read it and ponder upon it. I'm not sure why we did not began to do things sooner to try and avoid this. Nonetheless, gold. I've always said if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And seeing the largest amount of record purchasing of physical, tangible gold, more than likely, hypothetically, being China, I believe Russia and China will have a gold-backed currency, potentially with Brics. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and with the countries wanting to join, such as Iran, Argentina, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and other countries I just can't remember off the top of my head, it would then make Brics a superpower. Brics is already proposed to the IMF an alternative currency anyway, and as I've projected before, I will do so again. We have 5 currencies identifying as one: the yen, the yuan, the euro, the pound, and the dollar, and it's a central bank digital currency race. And I'm not going to take back any prediction or projection. However, I find it interesting, the stockpiling of gold with China and Russia is one we should be looking into and wondering, is this a possibility? Because Russia did just make the largest yuan purchase, or using the digital yuan, if you will, and equates to about $8.8 million. Nonetheless, it's being done. What are we doing? Are we manufacturing in America? Nope. Are we building? Nope. In fact, leading to the job reports, I've had many people ask me questions, and of course, I'm just giving not financial advice, hypothetical alleged opinions and projections of personal concerns and what I believe to be true. The labor market is strong, quote unquote. However, if you dissect it, leisure and hospitality jobs just seem to keep thriving. And with layoffs, just in the month of November, 400% up since this time last year, I conjure many of these people being laid off are having to pick up several different jobs, maybe two. And are we really believing America? We are a country that can live off of leisure and hospitality as a world superpower. If you look at the job sectors added, these are low-paying jobs. These are not the career field in which one potentially wants to work unless they feel called to do so. And I in no way, shape, or form diminishing anyone's choice of work at all. Work is work. Versus the man children who sat on the couch and were stimulated by the government just upgrading their Call of Duties and TVs. So work hard and work with purpose. But the job report, it's a bit lacking to me because we're not assessing qualitative and quantitative data. So don't let just the quant fool you. Now, Fannie Mae came out and said there's going to be a housing, what's the word they use? Because now we get too triggered in America. So we can't say things like depression. It's got to be downturn or soft and all these nuanced terms. And as someone with ADHD Asperger's, just shoot it to me straight, okay? We're already in a recession, in my personal opinion. One could argue if social media crashed tomorrow, we would legitimately be in a depression because people would have to actually look up from their phones to understand the state of affairs. And I'm troubled based on the institutional investors with whom I've spoken to, being I haven't heard the term purchase power brought up. And I'm thinking to myself, just waiting. We're not going to try to maintain purchase power even though the dollar has lost its value. The $10 bill is identifying as a $1 bill. Inflation, I don't believe, is the issue. We all know inflation was never transitory. May I say it again? And all of these institutional investors that want to try to come for me, quote unquote, not the ones at the top, they seem to be associates. Baby boys, baby girls. The Treasury prints the money. The Fed distributes it. The assets are held in SOMA. I don't know how many more times I have to repeat myself. I think they should be flagging this type of misinformation on LinkedIn because it is just an egregious statement to how associates managing high net worth, very high net worth, or ultra high net worth individual portfolios must not know what they're doing because fiscal policy involves Congress, monetary policy involves the Federal Reserve. The Fed does not print the money. And I'll go a step further. I disagree with pretty much everything Jerome Powell has done. But since 2019, I have it in data and metadata. I've said the Federal Reserve is going to lower the rates the first time in a decade, July 2019. They're going to drive up debt, the highest it's ever been, corporate and especially personal. And then they're going to hike those MFers like an Elon Musk rocket. What can I say? I have the data and metadata to prove it. And largest wealth transfer, prepare for. But purchasing power, important. I've not heard terms such as tax harvesting. And in speaking to ultra high net worth individuals or very high net worth or whatever term you'd like to use of people who are sentient and active and want conversations, never heard of tax harvesting. What? If you're not giving your clients tax incentives, tax sheltering, what are you doing? If your clients too are people that enjoy betting and you're not even using leverage responsibly, get out, stop and get out. Pick a different hobby because just because you want to be back in a fraternity house, something I never chose to partake in college, but finance is not a fucking fraternity house, boys. It's not. Get the fuck out. And I hope the CEOs on Wall Street do something. Now, I have another problem with 550 million credit card accounts open in America, and our population's only 350 million. Yikes. According to the newest Fed report, at least from September, credit card debt has gone up even more. So we're just hitting record highs and the worst type of record highs. One could argue, even if you come from nothing and have nothing, to go into this global depression, recession, debt-free, is arguably, in my personal humble opinion, something you want to do if you can. But to go into it and not have wealth managers doing their jobs is a bit bothersome to someone as myself. Finance isn't a fucking hobby. It's not. It's something you live. I don't know how to explain it. I eat, sleep, breathe. My friends and I calculated the hours. I'm such a geek in which I spend over 100 hours, give or take, weekly reading and researching to come up with data and metadata to be able to be precise. But America seems to have lost its way, and doing the bare minimum now is not anything an ultra high net worth individual should do. No one should have to be managing their own portfolios when they don't even have time to do so, and then having to make calls. I think we could all agree to that. Now let's go on to housing, the housing market. I have been projecting the housing market is going to capitulate. Fannie has also released something, I forget, because I do like to go on and read. So they have said they see a downturn. And now we have HELOCs, yikes, credit card debt, yikes. And now I forgot which bureau it is, wanting to try to limit the amount of foreclosure or something in relation to the process. And then I saw an article today, I want to say from the Business Insider, you cannot make this up, saying foreclosures are a good thing for the US economy. Okay, hard stop. Foreclosures are a good thing for someone, hypothetically, allegedly, like myself. Alternative investment fund, contrarian, anti-social media, ... valuation club. And I've had so many of you reach out to me. Should I start a Discord for it? Because when I say that, I've had so many people say, where's your Discord? Where can we all get involved and just chat about the current state of affairs? Well, I don't know, guys. You let me know, and I will facilitate. But if I'd like to set up a right, hypothetically, allegedly, I can do so. And so foreclosures for myself will be a beautiful thing. Instead of a dream home, I'd like a dream block. I'm not going to say which city, but there might be even two. Now, for everyone else, with the Census Bureau saying 62 million Americans have a mortgage, 1 in 15 have alternative lending for their mortgage. We have small business owners. Last month, I'm going to use the 37%, could not afford to pay either rent or mortgage. It's up to 40 now. Small businesses are what runs America, keeps America going. But I guess nothing to see there, right? Because whatever the hell's going on Twitter, I avoid like the plague. And I just simply have to ask myself, how can any of you sleep at night, especially if you are in wealth management, if you are not forward thinking in the fourth industrial revolution? And I don't give a damn what you have to say, Klaus Schwab, creative. And if this is the route we are going, then let's look into the robotics, autonomous vehicles, etc. But don't you dare ever use a title as a way to make yourself feel good and do the bare minimum. CEOs watching this, I highly suggest you audit the people who work for you's work, being that I want to say about 2 or 3 of you now have fired people from using my statistics, in which I've used on LinkedIn, in which they've presented. I'm at a point where I am not a proud American. I'm a pissed American. And to see people, especially the institutions, blaming the Fed, let me tell you this. I've gotten to know, by God's grace and God's grace alone, people who are working in the different Fed banks. They are lovely. And let me say this, they are bringing their best. Even if I disagree with them, they're the reason your bank hasn't already capitulated. They're trying to make sure your bank doesn't have a bail-in. If you don't know what that is, Google it. I'm guessing it's something the American people definitely do not want. But here we are, Q4. And another thing I was assessing, zombie companies. When I am looking at a corporation as a value investor, I look at corporate earnings versus the stocks, how they've performed. I'm also someone in digital assets, so I guess you could call me an enigmatic soul, crazy, but either way, the amount of research I did over the weekend, seeing these companies' valuations up, yet their corporate earnings negative 700 and something million, negative 7,000%. The amount were so egregiously high. I thought to myself, wow, between hedge funds, long short, equity strategy might not go, I don't know how I'm wording this, so let's start over. Hedge funds, with the GameStop issue, saw the problem with retail investors. Everyone is still partying like it's 1929. What's going to happen when people begin to pull their Bitcoin because they can't afford to pay their mortgage? 20 million could not afford to pay utilities. I believe the weather is changing, except in California where there's a drought. Therefore, crops, farmers, going back to commodities, long short equity strategy, hypothetically, allegedly, are a very event-driven strategy. They matter. These things matter. How the hell do you expect a country to keep running based off of nothing? Nothing but social media and advertising. It's distressing. And I'm going to continue this video in part 2. I love you all. Anhabak, je t'aime, te amo, bisubachi. Let's continue.